when a routine traffic stop turns into a moment that will define a career forever. A police officer's worst assumptions collide head-on with a truth he never saw coming. And his target? The very man who will decide his future. The late afternoon sun draped the streets of Sacramento in golden amber, the sky painted with soft streaks as day slowly gave way to evening. Eric Porter was driving home after a long day at work. His sedan purred quietly while the air conditioning whispered against the warm air, melting away the heat. A mellow tune played on the radio, just enough to keep the chaos of the city at bay. As Eric approached an intersection, the traffic light shifted to yellow. He eased to a stop just as it turned red. That's when his rearview mirror lit up with flashing blue and red, followed by the sharp cry of a siren. A small frown creased his brow. He pulled over, lowering the driver's side window as a police cruiser parked behind him. From it emerged Officer Bradley Larson, mid-30s, buzz-cut, with a badge that caught the fading light. He adjusted his belt with the casual confidence of someone used to being in charge. "License and registration," he said, his tone clipped but tinged with authority. Without a word, Eric retrieved his documents from the glove compartment and handed them over. His movements were calm, deliberate, but he could feel Larson's eyes scanning him like he was already guilty of something. "Do you know why I pulled you over?" Larson asked, leaning slightly toward the window. "I'm not entirely sure," Eric replied, polite yet firm. "You didn't come to a complete stop at the light," Larson said after a pause. But the slight hesitation in his voice suggested uncertainty. Eric gave a small nod. "I see. I thought I slowed in time, but I understand." Larson didn't answer right away. Instead, he studied Eric with narrowed eyes, as if searching for a deeper reason to keep this stop going. His tone shifted. "You're not from around here, are you?" "I moved here a few months ago," Eric replied evenly. "My address is on the license." But it was clear Larson wasn't listening to confirm information. He was fishing. "Where were you headed in such a hurry?" the officer asked. "Just heading home," Eric said, still calm. But the air between them grew heavier, the encounter taking a turn from routine to personal. Larson wasn't looking at Eric as just another driver anymore. He was looking for something to justify suspicion. And Eric could sense it. "Step out of the car," Larson ordered suddenly. Eric's fingers tightened on the steering wheel for the briefest second. "Is there a particular reason for that, officer?" Larson's lips twitched. "I asked you to step out. Don't make this harder than it has to be." Without a word, Eric opened the door and stepped out, standing tall but non-threatening. His tailored suit, polished shoes, and composed manner spoke of someone meticulous, yet none of that seemed to matter to Larson. "Hands where I can see them," Larson said. Eric complied. "Is there something specific you're looking for?" "Routine check," Larson replied, smirking faintly. "We've had incidents in the area." "Incidents involving men in suits driving sedans," Eric asked, "or something else?" That question landed like a punch. Larson's eyes hardened. "Watch your tone." "I'm just asking for clarity," Eric replied, his voice steady, not defiant, yet firm enough to make Larson uneasy. The officer stepped closer. "Turn around. Hands on the hood. I need to check for weapons." Eric raised an eyebrow. "Do I look like someone carrying a weapon?" "I'm not going to ask again." Eric slowly turned and placed his palms on the car. Larson's hands moved quickly, almost aggressively, patting him down longer than necessary. It was less about safety and more about dominance. But Eric didn't flinch. "You're clean," Larson muttered, almost disappointed. "Of course I am," Eric said quietly. "Now, if you're finished." "I'm not," Larson cut in sharply. "You seem to know a lot about what I can and can't do. Why is that?" "I've had my fair share of dealings with law enforcement," Eric said. Larson narrowed his eyes. "So, you a lawyer or something?" Eric smiled faintly. "Or something." The answer seemed to irritate Larson even more. He stepped closer, invading Eric's space. "Think you're smarter than me? Think you can talk your way out?" Eric met his gaze without blinking. "I don't think I'm smarter, officer. I believe in fairness. And right now, I'm not seeing much of it." Larson's composure faltered for the first time. "People like you always—" He stopped mid-sentence, realizing what he'd nearly said. "People like me," Eric repeated softly, with a razor-sharp undertone. Larson stepped back. "You know what I mean." "I think I do," Eric replied. "And this stopped being about a traffic light a long time ago." Larson opened his mouth, but no words came. The power dynamic had shifted, and he felt it. Eric broke the silence. "I think it's time you know who I am." "I don't care who you are," Larson shot back, though his voice lacked conviction. Eric reached slowly into his pocket. "I'm getting my badge," he said evenly. Larson's eyes followed his hand as he pulled out a leather wallet and flipped it open. The gold shield gleamed. "Eric Porter," he said calmly. "Head of Internal Affairs, Sacramento Division." Larson froze, his eyes darting from the badge to Eric's face. "Yes," Eric continued, "I oversee officer conduct. My job is to make sure this badge stands for integrity, not abuse of power." Larson's face paled, his authority crumbling. "You know the most troubling part of this?" Eric asked. "It's not the profiling. It's not the escalation. It's that you did all this without knowing who you were talking to, because you assumed I wouldn't know my rights. Because I didn't fit your idea of someone who deserved respect." Larson's shoulders sagged. "Here's what's going to happen," Eric said. "You're going to hand back my documents, and you're going to hear from me again, this time, not as a driver, but as the person deciding whether you keep your badge." Larson swallowed hard and returned the documents, his hands trembling slightly. Eric opened his car door, looked back one last time, and said, "The badge doesn't make you better than anyone. It makes you accountable to everyone." The next morning, in his office at the Sacramento Police Department's Internal Affairs Division, Eric studied Larson's file. Multiple prior complaints, minor misconduct, excessive stops, never properly addressed. Later that day, Eric met with Chief Daniels. He recounted the incident, making it clear this wasn't about one officer, but a broken culture. "We've handled things quietly for too long," Eric said. "Quiet doesn't fix the problem. It hides it. We need a department-wide review, training, protocols, accountability. If we don't hold ourselves to a higher standard, the community will never trust us." Daniels leaned forward. "You'll ruffle feathers." "Good," Eric replied. "It's time someone did." Over the next weeks, Eric spearheaded public forums, gathered community input, and dug deep into department records. Larson was suspended after an internal hearing, but Eric knew the real victory was preventing the next Larson. Months later, Eric stood before officers, city officials, and residents. His voice carried through the hall. "Justice isn't only about catching criminals. It's about ensuring those who protect and serve do so with integrity, fairness, and respect. That's the badge I believe in. And that's the badge we must all carry, together." The applause was loud. But Eric wasn't thinking about applause. He was thinking about the work ahead. Change wouldn't happen overnight, but it would happen. And for now, that was enough.